एवढे सगळे जॉईन झाले. ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासां ततो जायमुदीरये. नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं. वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपां साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमः. ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामने. नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारणे. नमो महावदान्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामने गौरत्विषे नमः. हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते. तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद. हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे. हरे राम 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 हरे हरे.
Hare Krishna. A reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 17, The Victory of Hiraṇyākṣa. Murti Krishna Prabhu, thank you. Thank you for doing the prayers. I just got delayed today. So we are at text 18. Just a minute. प्रजापतिर्नाम तयोर्कार्षेत् यः प्राक् यमयो जयत तं वै हिरण्यकश्यपुं विदुः प्रजा यं तं हिरण्याक्षम् असुतं साग्रतः. Translation.
Kashyapa, Prajapati, the creator of the living entities, gave his twin sons their names. The one who was born first he named Hiranyaksha, and the one who was first conceived by Diti he named Hiranyakashipu. Purport: There is an authoritative Vedic literature called Pinda Siddhi, in which the scientific understanding of pregnancy is very nicely described. It is stated that when the male secretion enters the menstrual flux of the uterus in two successive drops, the mother develops two embryos in her womb, and she brings forth twins in a reverse order, so that in which they were first conceived. The child conceived first is born later, and the one conceived later is brought forth first. The first child conceived in the womb leaves behind the second child. So when birth takes place, the second child appears first, and the first child appears second. In this case, it is understood that Hiranyaksha, the second child conceived, was delivered first, whereas Hiranyakashipu, the child who was behind him, having been conceived first, was born second. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So the the twins, the first who delivered was Hiraṇyākṣa, but the first conceived was Hiranyakashipu. Srila Prabhupada quotes here the Vedic literature called as Pinda Siddhi. So, and this is a very, very important conception. Why? Because the entire further ruling rights, they are gone to the first child, and they are just going to come one after another. And you somebody will say, "Arey, my birth time is, the first than yours. I first appeared here." So no. So this is the Pinda Siddhi here. It says that the child which is delivered first is conceived later, and the child which is born next is conceived first, and therefore Hiranyakashipu was the elder brother to Hiranyaksha. This is the precision of the Vedic science. This is from Pinda Siddhi. Text 19. Chakre Hiranyakashipur Dorbhyam Brahmavarena cha Vashe Sapalayan Lokan Trinakuta Mrityu Uddhataha. Translation.
Translation: The elder child Hiranyakashipu was unafraid of death from anyone within the three worlds because he received a benediction from Lord Brahma. He was proud and puffed up due to this benediction and was able to bring all three planetary systems under his control. Purport: As will be revealed in later chapters, Hiranyakashipu underwent severe austerity and penance to satisfy Brahma and thus receive a benediction of immortality. Actually, it is impossible even for Lord Brahma to give anyone the benediction of becoming immortal. But indirectly, Hiranyakashipu received the benediction that no one within this material world would be able to kill him. In other words, because he originally came from the abode of Vaikuntha, he was not to be killed by anyone within this material world. The Lord desired to appear himself to kill him. One may be very proud of his material advancement in knowledge, but he cannot be immune to the four principles of material existence, namely birth, death, old age, and disease. It was the Lord's plan to teach people that even Hiranyakashipu, who was so powerful and strongly built, could not live more than his destined duration of life. One may become one may become as strong and puffed up as Hiranyakashipu and bring under his control all the three worlds. But there is no possibility of continuing life eternally or keeping the conquered booty forever. So many emperors have ascended to power and they are now lost in oblivion. That is the history of the world. Hare Krishna.
So now here, the elder child Hiranyakashipu, he was unafraid of death. And these are the benedictions he received from Brahmaji, which will be revealed later in the 7th canto, when there will be very detailed description of Prahlad Katha will be there. He had received the benedictions from Brahma, and thus he became very proud and puffed up, and he was able to bring the three planetary systems under his stringent control. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that Hiranyakashipu was looking for the benediction of immortality, which is not possible even for Brahmaji, because there is a death to even Brahma. Why? Because this is the basic nature of the material world. Abrahma bhuvanal loka punaravartino arjuna. Or Bhagavad Gita again explains, Jatasya hi dhruvam mrityu, dhruvam janma mritasya cha. So Srila Prabhupada says one may be very strong and puffed up by one's, like sometimes people appear to be unstoppable, right? And for good, bad reason, whatever it is. But no one can surpass the principles of the material existence, namely birth, old age, disease, and death. Here in this case, because the Lord personally desired to kill Hiranyakashipu and fight with Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, he was unafraid of death, and thus he was roaming around the universe unchallenged. Text 20. Hiraṇyākṣo anujastasya priyaprītikrit anvaham gadapanir divam yata yuyutsu mrugayandranam. Translation.
His younger brother Hiranyaksha was always ready to satisfy his elder brother by his activities. Hiranyaksha took a club on his shoulder and traveled all over the universe with a fighting spirit just to satisfy Hiranyakashipu. Purport. The demoniac spirit is to train all family members to exploit the resources of this universe for personal sense gratification, whereas the godly spirit is to engage everything in the service of the Lord. Hiranyakashipu was himself very powerful, and he made his younger brother Hiranyaksha powerful to assist him in fighting with everyone and lording it over material nature as long as possible. If possible, he wanted to rule the universe eternally. These are demonstrations of the spirit of the demoniac living entity.
So this Hiranyaksha, the younger brother, was always very, very obedient to Hiranyakashipu. And Pritikrut, simply to satisfy Hiranyakashipu, he used to take his Gadapani. Gadapani means by holding the Gada, Divam Yataha. He used to roam around the higher planetary system, Yuyutsu Mrugayandranam, always desiring to fight. So nowadays, the modern world, the current word for this is Aka. Okay. So Hiranyaksha was the Chela and Hiranyakashipu was Aka. And both were always looking for fighting and, Mrugayan, searching for somebody how to fight. And this is how he just roamed around the universe unchallenged. Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha both wanted to live eternally and wanted to rule the world eternally. And this is how they were looking for the opponent to fight, but nobody was able to stand in front of them. Text 21. Tam viksha dussahajjavam ranatkanchanupuram vaijayantyasrajashtam ansanastya mahagadam. Translation.
Hiranyaksha's temper was difficult to control. He had anklets of gold tinkling about his feet. He was adorned with a gigantic garland, and he rested his huge mace on one of his shoulders.
The countenance, the appearance of Hiranyaksha was very, it was like a huge mountain walking everywhere. We have already seen their bodies were touching the outer sky. Even the vision of sun and moon will be obstructed when somebody is standing behind them. This is how the very strong steel framed bodies they had, and they had the benedictions, and thus, and his temper was very difficult to control. Anklets of gold twinkling about his feet, adorned with the gigantic garland, and he rested his huge mace, Mahagadam, on his shoulder. So the word Mahagadam will be coming later also, that all these great powerful personalities, their Gada is called as Mahagadam. Later, Indra's Gada is also called as Mahagadam. And Indra, he also threw Mahagadam at Vritrasur. But Vritrasur was so powerful, he just took it in the left hand and again hit Indra with Mahagadam. So it was a very, very powerful Gada. So this is how Hiranyaksha was roaming around. Because they were extremely powerful, they became uncontrolled in the temper. Okay. So power leads to temper. What is that line? Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And this was the case of Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. There was nobody who was going to check them. And thus they became literally uncontrollable personalities. Text 22. Manahvirya vara utsiktam asrunyam akuto bhayam Bhita nillilya deva tirkshatrasta ivasaya. Translation.
His mental and bodily strength, as well as the boon conferred upon him, had made him proud. He feared death at the hands of no one, and there was no checking him. The gods, therefore, were seized with fear at his very sight, and they hid themselves even as snakes hide themselves for fear of Garuda. Purport. The Asuras are generally strongly built as described here, and therefore their mental condition is very sound, and their prowess is also extraordinary. Hiran- Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, having received the boon that they would not be killed by any other living entity within this universe, were almost immortal, and thus they were completely fearless.
Because they had very strongly built bodies and unafraid of everywhere, they had very strongly built mind as well. So their bodily and the mental condition was very sound, and due to the boon that was conferred upon them by Brahmaji, he feared death at nobody's hands. And thus the gods, when this Hiranyaksha approached for the fight with Mahagadam, they were hiding just like the snakes hide in the presence of Garuda. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes about Asuras are generally very strongly built and very strong mental condition. And this prowess was so extraordinary that they almost appear immortal within this universe, that there was no checking, no stopping. Just like, the one can see how the Mughals, they appeared just 400 years ago. They appeared like, who will check them? Who will stop them? Right? Completely relentless force. They just ruled India everywhere, destroying all temples. Something very, very similar. Right. But then came Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, and today is Balidan Divas of Chhatrapati Sambhaji Maharaj. And in just 20 years, they were just wiped out of everything. Now we have the descendants of the Mughals who are they are some bhikaris on the Kolkata platforms. Right. So the time is very strong, and big civilizations are wiped out, and the rule of dharma will be established. But in Kali Yuga things take little time, and therefore, but one should not become despondent. Here the condition of the devas was like this, that they were completely afraid of, forget Hiranyakashipu, he never came out of the palace. Hiranyaksha, who was just roaming around with Mahagadam. Text 23. सवै तिरोहितान् दृष्ट्वा महसा स्वेन दैत्यराट् स इन्द्रान् देवगणान् क्षीयान् अपश्यन् व्यनदद्भृशम्. Translation.
On not finding Indra and the other demigods who had previously been intoxicated with power, the chief of the Daityas, seeing that they had all vanished before his might, roared loudly.
So Hiranyaksha time to time approached Swargalok, but as soon as they realized, Devatas realized Hiranyaksha is coming, everybody vanished. Just like the snakes vanish and hide. And later we'll see that we are reading this Brihad Bhagavatamrit. There Indra also says, so many times, we have vanished from our houses and have come to Martyaloka, and taking some form we are hiding out of the fear of the demons. It is not that our life is amar and without any dukkha. And thus, this powerful Daitya, he just began to roar loudly that with whom I will fight. So he was just finding an opponent, and whenever he used to go, the opponent used to flee away. And therefore, he had the uncontrollable power he was not able to exercise. Similar pastime comes in Krishna Lila, where we see Banasur. He is also shouting like this. He had 1,000 arms and extremely powerful by the benedictions of Lord Shiva. And this Banasur finally came to Lord Shiva and said that, my dear Lord, you gave me these hands, but gave me this power, but with whom I will fight? And Lord Shiva said, you fool, you wait for some time. Somebody will come and destroy your pride to pieces. And very soon, then there is a fight between Banasura and Lord Krishna. Very beautiful pastime later. Text 24. ततो निवृत्त क्रीडयन् गंभीरं भीमनिस्वनं विजगाहे महासत्वो वार्धिमत्तः इव द्विपः. Translation?
After returning from the heavenly kingdom, the mighty demon, who was like an elephant in wrath, for the sake of the sport, dived into the deep ocean, which was roaring terribly. Thank you, Prabhu.
So, visiting various places, nobody to find, and he was angry like a mad elephant. For the sake of the sport, he dived into the deep ocean, which was roaring terribly. Why? Because he was thinking, now I did not find anybody on the land, anybody in the antariksha, in the sky. Let me go inside the water and find out if I can get somebody to fight there. And that's why he dived deeply inside the ocean. Text 25. तस्मिन् प्रविष्टे वरुणस्य सैनिका यादो गणा सन्निधयत् ससाध्वसा अहन्यमाना अपि तस्य वर्चसा प्रदीर्शिता धूरतरं प्रदुद्रुवुः. Translation.
On his entering the ocean, the aquatic animals who formed the host of Varuna were stricken with fear and ran far away. Thus Hiraṇyākṣa showed his splendor without dealing a blow. Purport: materialistic demons sometimes appear to be very powerful and are seen to establish their supremacy throughout the world. Here also it appears that Hiraṇyākṣa, by his demoniac strength, actually established his supremacy throughout the universe, and the demigods were afraid of his uncommon power. Not only were the demigods in space afraid of the demons Hiranyakashipu and Hiraṇyākṣa, but so also were the aquatic animals within the sea. Hare Krishna.
So, on entering the ocean, the aquatics, they began to tremble and they were completely struck with fear and ran away. And this is how Hiranyaksha was establishing his supremacy without fighting, without putting even a blow around. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that the materialistic demons sometimes appear to be unstoppable and extremely powerful. And they just want to establish supremacy everywhere within the universe. And here, Hiranyakashipu, he did that on the land, in the Antariksha, and now in the sea. And here, the aquatic animals within the sea, they were very afraid of the prowess of Hiranyaksha. Text 26. Sap Varshapūgan Udadau Mahabala Charan Mahaurumin Shwasan Iritan Muhu Maurvya Bijagne Gadaya Vibhavarim Ase Divam Tatapurim Prachetasah. Translation.
Moving about in the ocean for many, many years, the mighty Hiranyaksha smote the gigantic wind-tossed waves again and again with his iron mace, and reached Vibhavari, the capital of Varuna. Purport: Varuna is supposed to be the predominating deity of the waters, and his capital, which is known as Vibhavari, is within the watery kingdom.
Yeah. So when he jumped within to find the opponent, he was swimming for many, many years. Now, look at the words here, many, many years, and he is not some baby jumping around. He's mighty Hiranyaksha. He's he's swimming for many, many years, and finally he reached the capital of Varuna, Vibhavari. So, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains Varuna is the predominating deity of the waters, and Vibhavari is within the watery kingdoms. Right. In fact, the ocean world is so mesmerizing and so beautiful that it's a different world altogether, different there. Sometimes you may come across a huge fish, sharks, and then Bhagavatam explains about Timingala. Of course, the human explorations has limitations. Just like we cannot go to Upper Badri, and where the Pandavas has had access to, where Lord Badrinarayan is residing. It is on the planet Earth only. And similarly, one cannot go to the depth of the oceans as well, which Hiranyaksha took many, many years. So, one has to be very careful of one's so-called scientific knowledge, because it has later, maybe next 1,000-2,000 years, there will be a time where again, the Om Ajnanati Mirandasya moment will come in the scientific world, where they will turn from matter to spirit, matter to energy, and from energy, when they will move on their dimensions to consciousness, they will have the another eureka moment in the science, that how they were completely blind. So, for this higher reality, which can be accessed only through the expansion of consciousness and not by simply expansion of one so-called scientific advancement. So today is a very auspicious day. Today is Gudi Padava, Vedic New Year, and there are many programs all across. There is Shobha Yatra and Padayatra. Many devotees are also participating. So very happy New Year to everyone. And we conclude here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Bhakta Vrind ki jai. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna. Sorry for being late. I was late today.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you,
Happy New Year,
Prabhupada.
Prabhuji.
Thank you,
Prabhu,
Prabhuji.
I have a
Thank you,
small
everyone.
question.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Happy
Sharendra Prabhu, you
New
are in
Year,
Pune.
Prabhuji.
We will meet in the temple.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, yes. Yes.
Okay. Prabhu, my question is about the yesterday's topic on the we were reading about different omens, bad omens, and other things. So generally, I mean, who controls these omens? Prabhu, if demigods itself is not aware of the omens, that means like he is not the one who I mean, they are not the ones who will be creating these omens, or they should not come randomly, right? Someone must be initiating them, or someone must be controlling them. So, if all demigods are not aware and they were kind of fearful of these omens, that must be is it Vishnu who will be creating these omens in the universe?
Simple answer. The mother nature.
Okay.
Okay. So demigods, they were aware of this. That when they could see and they could ascertain that there is a darkness in the universe, they were aware something is happening, and they could ascertain to the precision what is the cause of the darkness. I mean, they must be sitting, all these Indra, Chandra, Varuna, Vayu, Guru, Brihaspati, and they said that we are in this position. They must have analyzed the Kundali of the universe that time, and they analyzed to the precision of this darkness is caused by Diti's pregnancy. That was a quite a precise Jyotisha that the demigods did, but they were civilized enough not to kill the children in the womb, right? So now who controls the woman? The mother nature. Mother nature is, in a simpler words, is Ma Durga. She controls these omens. And they have to happen naturally. Just like there is a funny story about I mean, some years back, the Peshwa times, later part of the Peshwas, when the Peshwas became a little more stable, and so many heroic things happened, and few funny things also happened. So before the Peshwas used to go for their conquering, they some of the ministers, they will arrange some Saubhagyavati carrying some water, handa, and crossing them, and trying to create a good omen. But you cannot try to create a good or bad omen like that. Okay, they have to happen naturally. That is very important, and then that is indication from the mother nature. It is not that they have to be created by somebody in somebody's life.
Okay.
Like, my child is going to give exam, let me create a good omen for him, and therefore we try to do something. No, that doesn't work. They have to happen very naturally. That is very important.
But Mother Nature is also like, for example, if you consider Durga or Lord Shiva, we consider them as demigods only.
No,
But Lord Shiva is
Lord
just
Shiva and Durga, they are not demigods. They are not demigods, right? Of course, they are demigods in the sense that they are
they're not
not
supreme.
different than
That's supreme
they are.
personality.
They are not the supreme personality of Godhead. In a way, they are not supreme personality of Godhead, but they are no less powerful than supreme personality of Godhead.
Okay.
Who is Lord Shiva? Lord Shiva is none of the glance of the Supreme Lord Krishna is called as Lord Shiva, right?
Yes, Prabhu.
And the glance of Lord comes in touch with the material nature, he becomes Lord Shiva. So in a way, there is no difference between Lord Shiva and Lord Krishna, and therefore Shiva Tattva is very, very special. Just like the Guru Tattva cannot be realized very well, similarly the Shiva Tattva, and he is also called as Adi Guru. And similarly, the Devi Tattva, it is mother, it's like Radharani or Sita Mata. When they are in the touch, they are handling the material nature, they become Durga. Chhaye vayasya bhuvanani vibharti Durga. So, of course, everybody is a demigod. We say that in Krishna, Ekale Ishvara Krishna. But these two personalities, Lord Shiva and Durga Mata, they are not annihilated at every Manvantara, right?
Yes, Prabhu.
They are not like other demigods. So, that is to be taken. I mean, Lord Shiva and Durga Devi, they have very, very special position. Very special position. Other demigods cannot award liberation. Lord Shiva, Durga Mata can award. So they are
So,
at a very liberated, very different position, almost like the supreme, but because they are in the touch with the material nature, uh, they are not considered the supreme, like that it is. Brahma Samhita beautifully explains that. Kshiram yada dadi vikara vishesha yoga. So, but they are not like the demigods. Although Lord Rudra will appear through Brahmaji, and that's how they are Prakat Leela. But even after the disappearance of the death of Brahma, Lord Shiva continues to exist. And Shiva Tattva is very special and very, very different and very puzzling also at times to understand. Right?
you said Ma Durga and Shiva both can award liberation.
Yeah, yes.
So, I mean, the
But how
devotee.
they award liberation? That is there. Right? Durga Devi, there is beautiful discussion in Padma Puran where Durga, Parvati, she is asking her husband. She is asking, my dear husband, and it's like a, little different kind of a question she's asking, a bit sarcastic. She's saying, my dear husband, I see all your devotees who are quite drunk, this, that, and they come for some material benediction. But says, in case somebody becomes your devotee out of pure desire to serve you, how you treat him differently? And then Lord Shiva says, for such a my pure devotee, which is very rare to find a pure devotee of Lord Shiva, because generally people will go to Lord Shiva for some material benediction, right?
Yes, Prabhu.
Srila Prabhupada writes, just like it is very difficult to find pure person in the bar. People will generally go to drink there. It's very difficult to find why if you're a pure person, why you will go. So therefore, although Lord Shiva himself is a pure personality, the purest of the pure, the name itself is Shiva. Shiva means all auspiciousness. But because he's controlling Tamoguna, the people generally in the mode of Tamoguna will approach Lord Shiva. And therefore, this is the question from uh, Devi Parvati. And he says, for such people, I go at the time of their death personally, and in their ears, I
Yeah.
chant the holy names of the Supreme
Yeah.
Lord. Yeah.
Yes, I heard this.
So this is how it is. So they award liberation
Okay.
by awarding liberation as Vaishnava liberation, like that it is. So it's a very fascinating. Lord Shiva is very, very fascinating. His abode Kailash is neither in the material world nor in the spiritual world. Just like Lord Shiva is neither Vishnu Tattva nor Jiva Tattva. Similarly, the abode of Lord Shiva is also like that. It is situated beyond Devi Dham, but before Vaikuntha Dham. Devi Mahesha Hari Dhamasu Teshu Teshu. This is the sequence. Devi Dham is the material world, Mahesha Dham is Kailas, and then there is Hari Dham, that is Vaikuntha. So they come one after another, like that it is.
So people who
Many
are
times, there is a chance that as a devotee in over enthusiasm, we may, of course, I'm not talking about you, you are a very veteran devotee, but we should not criticize the demigods. It is very important. What to speak of Lord Shiva?
yes, Prabhu.
Yes.
I'm just like last question on the Lord Shiva's abode. So people who gets liberation, at least some people who loves Lord Shiva, so they go to Kailash.
They go to
Like we
Kailash, which
we
is,
aspire for Vaikuntha Lokas, that some aspire for Kailash also, and they go to Kailash. Is that correct? Or?
yeah, correct. Yes. So Kailash is as beautiful as Vaikuntha. Later, we will have a very beautiful description of Kailash.
Okay.
That's how Bhagavatam is going to take us to Kailash also. Bhagavatam has already taken us to Vaikuntha,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Brahmaji giving description to demigods. Bhagavatam is going to take us to Kailash also. When we'll see Chitraketu Maharaj, he is roaming around like this. Suddenly he entered Kailash. And then there is a beautiful description of the banyan tree, the huge, mighty banyan tree under which Lord Shiva is sitting. And it is another fascinating, the katha there. about Kailash. But yes, there are residents, and there is, right?
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.